welcome to the Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
Today, we're really digging into a system that aims to, well, totally change how you handle money in your business.
And maybe even in your personal life, too.
Yeah, exactly. We've been looking at excerpts from Mike Michalowicz's book, Profit First.
Right?
And our mission, really, in this deep dive, is to pull out the key stuff, the core ideas, the mechanics, the actual steps.
To really get our heads around this different approach to building, well, permanent profitability.
And the whole Profit First story kind of kicks off with Michalowicz's own pretty dramatic experience, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. He'd had huge success, sold companies for millions.
Living the dream, supposedly.
Yeah, and then lost it all. Completely wiped out.
That crash is such a powerful way to frame the problem. He talks about getting that big payout and what happened next. Buying luxury cars, multiple ones, joining fancy clubs.
The whole 9 yards. The classic picture of I've made it.
He said it was arrogance, didn't he? This belief he just couldn't fail.
Yeah, he thought he'd mastered the quick growth, the revenue side.
Making sales.
Which exactly. But he had this massive blind spot. He didn't truly understand profitability.
He knew how to get money in.
Right. But not how to keep it, control it, make it work for him.
And that blind spot led to, well, rock bottom, being thousands in debt with almost nothing left.
Yeah, that moment he describes head on the desk, crying, realizing he hadn't just failed himself.
But his family, too.
Yeah.
Destroyed everything, especially around Valentine's Day, which just adds to it.
And that brutal honesty, losing it all despite having revenue, despite past quote-unquote success, it just perfectly sets up the core problem Profit First tries to fix, that you can be super busy, making sales, have impressive, top-line numbers.
But still be completely broke.
Or worse, drowning in debt, living check to check. He saw that chasing only revenue without focusing on profit, well, it was a recipe for disaster.
And that experience was the spark, right, to find a simpler way.
A simpler, more effective way for any business, big or small, to become profitable, instantly and permanently.
Okay, so that leads us right into the common trap he talks about, the way most businesses operate.
Right. The traditional accounting formula.
Sales minus expenses equals profit. GAAP. Seems logical.
It seems logical, yeah, on paper. But here's the kicker. That formula actually works against our human nature.
How so?
Well, think about it. Money comes into the main account, the sales roll in. What's our first instinct?
Spend it.
Spend it. On things we think we need for growth, or maybe just things that stop the immediate pain or stress. The money's there, so poof, it's gone.
He calls this the survival trap.
Yeah. You're laser focused on revenue, chasing the next sale, but you're just surviving week to week.
Any cash just gets sucked up by expenses.
Expenses you feel you need to make to keep growing. And you pile on debt because it never quite adds up.
In that whole bigger is better idea.
Often just means bigger problems, bigger debt if there's no profit underneath. Selling harder won't fix it if the business is fundamentally unhealthy.
It's a cycle so many fall into. The source points out that even huge companies, millions in revenue,
are often not truly profitable. They're just covering bills, maybe losing money, using debt to keep the lights on.
And the emotional side. Spending on marketing or equipment feels good, right? Like progress.
It does. It gives you a hit of hope, a temporary fix for the stress, like an entrepreneur's drug, even if it doesn't actually build lasting cash flow or profit.
Okay, so if that traditional formula is the problem, playing against our behavior, what's the fix?
That's the simple yet kind of radical core of Profit First. Flip the formula.
Instead of sales expenses, profit.
It's sales, profit, expenses.
Sales minus profit equals expenses. Wait, so you take the profit out first, before you even know what's left for bills.
Precisely. That's the counterintuitive genius of it. A set percentage of every dollar of revenue that comes in gets immediately moved to a separate profit account. What's left over, after you've taken profit and made other allocations we'll get to, that's what you have to run the business on.
So you're forced to make do with less for expenses.
Exactly. You're forced to be efficient.
Where did this idea even come from? It's not standard accounting.
No, definitely not from a finance textbook. The light bulb moment came from behavioral stuff. Analogies like weight loss.
Weight loss.
Oh.
How does that connect?
He mentions an expert suggesting instead of fighting yourself to eat less, relying on willpower, which usually fails, just use a smaller plate. Change the structure.
Smaller plate. You naturally take less food. You eat less without thinking about it.
Exactly. It's about changing the structure around the behavior, not battling the behavior itself.
So this sounds like Parkinson's law applied to money.
Bingo! That's the core insight. Work expands to fill the time available.
And spending expands to fill the money available.
Right. By taking profit first, moving it out physically to another account, you're giving your expenses that smaller plate.
You see less in the operating account, so you spend less.
You're forced to get creative, find efficiencies, make do. It works with our tendency to spend what's visible instead of fighting it.
Okay, I get the principle now.
Yeah.
It makes a weird kind of sense. But how do you actually do this? What's step one?
Step one is maybe the toughest, emotionally. Facing the naked truth, as he calls it.
Looking at the numbers.
Doing an instant assessment. Figuring out where your business really is financially right now. No hiding.
That sounds terrifying for a lot of people.
It can be, but the fear is usually worse when you don't know. Lack of knowledge fuels anxiety. Once you have the actual numbers, even if they're bad, it becomes manageable. Facts, not just nightmare scenarios.
So it's a shift, isn't it? From how big is my business?
To how healthy is my business? That's the crucial question.
And realizing profitability isn't some destination.
No, it's a habit. Built day by day, week by week, with small, consistent actions.
Like starting an exercise routine. You don't just run a marathon.
Exactly. You start small, build the habit, then increase.
And a key tool here is percentages, right? Not just raw numbers.
Yes, percentages are vital because financial health is relative, like physical health. The Amazon Eve example he uses is great.
The very tall model.
Yeah, 6'8", over 200 pounds. The number alone sounds high, but for her height, she's incredibly fit. The number needs context. Percentages give your business finances that context.
So you figure out your current percentages, then set targets.
Yeah.
Target allocation percentages, TAPs.
Exactly. And the immediate concrete action after assessing is setting up the bank accounts.
The separate accounts. The smaller plates.
Right. The source recommends at least 4 to start. Profit, operating expenses, OpEx, owner's pay, and tax.
And he suggests nicknaming them.
Yeah, like profit 10% or OpEx 50%. Put your target right in the name so you see it constantly. Reinforces the goal.
Having those separate accounts seems really practical. But what if a business isn't making much profit now? Setting aside money might feel impossible.
That's where the starting strategy is clever. You don't jump straight to your ideal TAPs. You start small. Maybe just 1% more for profit than you're doing now, even if current reality is 0 or negative.
So just tiny steps.
Tiny steps. The initial goal is just to build the habit of allocating without causing so much financial pain that you quit.
Makes sense.
Then you adjust those percentages up slightly each quarter, maybe 1-3%, as things improve, gradually moving towards your target.
Build the muscle slowly.
Exactly. And you start now, like today. Look at your operating account balance, figure out what cash is actually available after outstanding checks, and allocate that cash immediately into the new accounts based on your starting percentages.
And then going forward.
Every single new deposit that comes in gets allocated the same way, following your current percentages. It becomes a rhythm, automatic.
Okay, so the money's going into these different pots. How do you actually get the benefit, like get the profit out?
Good question. That happens with the quarterly profit distribution. Yeah. First day of the new quarter, look at the balance in your profit account. The system suggests taking out 50% of whatever's in there.
50%. And that's the owner's profit.
That's your distribution. Pay it out to the owners, celebrate, use it however you see fit. It's the reward.
And the other 50%, what happens to that?
Stays in the account. That becomes your reserve. This is how you build your rainy day fund. The goal is to accumulate enough in that profit account reserve to cover 3 months of your operating expenses.
3 months. Wow, that's a serious cushion.
It gives you incredible peace of mind, knowing you can weather storms, essentially becoming your own bank.
I like that, becoming your own bank.
And once you have that 3-month reserve built up,
then what?
Any profit accumulating above that level, that's where you have choices. Reinvest strategically back into the business, thoughtfully, not reactively. Or maybe fund other long-term savings goals in other accounts.
This whole system feels very grounded in, well, actual cash.
It totally leverages what he calls bank balance accounting. Most of us check our bank balance anyway, right?
Sure, constantly.
This system turns that impulse into a trigger for action allocation. As the source says, projections are an opinion, cash is a fact. It's all based on the real money you have right now.
Okay, allocation makes sense. But profit isn't just about divvying up the cash, is it? It's also about managing the expenses slice of the pie.
Absolutely crucial. He talks about finding found money through efficiency.
Found money.
Yeah, and here's a shocker. He claims 95% of your potential profitability is underground.
Underground, meaning?
Meaning it comes from how efficiently you manage operations and expenses after the sale. Only about 5% comes from the sale itself, the sky.
Wow, 95%. That flips everything for people just chasing sales.
Totally. It forces you to see that sustainable profit comes from innovating in your processes, your costs. Not just tiny tweaks, but asking big questions.
Like the difference between slightly better gas mileage and, say, building a Hyperloop.
Exactly. Or getting to Mars.
Yeah.
Bold efficiency thinking.
What are some examples he gives? I remember something about UPS.
The UPS examples are brilliant. The famous right turns only policy.
Right turns. How does that save money?
Avoids waiting to turn left across traffic, idling at lights, saves fuel, saves time. Seems tiny, but across thousands of drivers.
Millions saved.
Millions. Another one. Drivers keeping their keys on their pinky finger?
Seriously.
Yeah. Saves maybe 5-10 seconds fumbling in a pocket at each stop. Multiply that by 50 stops, tens of thousands of drivers. It adds up to massive time savings. Small efficiencies scale dramatically.
Okay, so back to that OpsX account with less money in it. How do you attack cutting costs effectively?
He suggests creating a buffer. Aim to cut expenses not just to your target percentage, but maybe 10% below it.
Why below?
To protect against expense bounce back, you cut something, realize you actually needed it, then scramble to bring it back, often costing more. The buffer gives you wiggle room.
Smart. What about negotiating bills? Suppliers, vendors?
It's definitely part of it. Practice on smaller stuff first to build confidence. The key isn't just being tough, but being informed, firm, and looking for win-win solutions.
Or alternatives.
Exactly. Not just lower price for this, but is there a different way to get the same result for less? Like his example of using free hotel lobby Wi-Fi if the room internet fee is too high.
Then there's the really hard part of expense cutting. Layoffs.
Yeah, he doesn't shy away from it. Shares his own story of laying off 10 people.
That must have been brutal.
He says it was devastating, but his realization was key. He had failed them through mismanagement, hiring beyond what the business could truly support.
Wow, taking ownership like that.
Yeah. And his perspective, while tough, is that sometimes letting people go from a struggling, unprofitable company actually frees them to find better opportunities elsewhere.
Like the people he let go.
He checked years later, they were all thriving in better jobs, some living dreams they couldn't have chased if they'd stayed. It's a hard truth about the cost of cropping up an unhealthy business.
Speaking of unhealthy, the source also brings in ideas about client efficiency, right? From his pumpkin plan work.
Yes, another huge area for finding that found money. The idea of firing bad clients.
The ones that cost more than they're worth.
Exactly. The energy vampires. They cause stress, waste time, demand endless changes, pay late, or just don't pay enough for the hassle they create.
They suck the profit right out.
Precisely. And the source hammers this home. All revenue is not the same. Getting rid of those drains, even if revenue dips temporarily, frees up massive amounts of time, energy, and resources.
So you can focus on the opposite.
Cloning your best clients. Think about your absolute favorite client. Pays well, on time, trusts you, easy to work with, genuinely profitable.
Yeah, we all have one or two like that, hopefully.
The goal is to figure out what makes them ideal, and then aim all your marketing and sales efforts at finding more just like them.
And this ties into the 80-20 rule, Pareto principle.
Perfectly. 20% of clients usually bring 80% of revenue, and often 20% of your services bring 80% of your profit.
And he talks about finding the overlap.
The Pareto overlap. That sweet spot where your top 20% clients are buying your top 20% most profitable offerings, that's gold.
So analyzing that helps you decide.
Who to fire, bad clients buying low profit stuff, who to manage differently, okay, clients buying high profit stuff, and how to sell more high profit stuff to your best clients. It focuses your energy for maximum impact.
There was also a specific metric mentioned for labor costs. Greg Crabtree.
Right, Crabtree's instant labor analysis. A quick check. For tech or service businesses, real revenue, that's revenue after cost of goods, should be about 2.5 times your total labor cost.
And for businesses with lower labor costs.
Like basic services, closer to 4 times. It's a fast way to see if your payroll is way out of whack with what the business is actually generating.
Okay, so you've done the assessment, set up accounts, you're allocating, you're hunting for efficiencies. What makes people actually stick with this? What's the biggest hurdle long term?
The source is blunt. It's not lack of knowing what to do, it's lack of doing it. Consistency. Stick-to-it tenacity, he calls it.
Just grinded it out.
Yeah. Especially when things get tight or old habits scream at you.
And that's where accountability comes in big time.
Absolutely. Accountability groups work because they tap into basic human motivation, pain, and pleasure.
Like Weight Watchers.
Exactly. Genidich's insight. The group support, the public weigh in. That accountability helped people stick with it after the initial pain spurred the change. With money, the pain might be embarrassment in front of peers. The pleasure is hitting goals, seeing that profit account grow.
The source also mentioned Dan O'Reilly's work on small cheats.
Yeah, the little white lies we tell ourselves. O'Reilly found most people don't commit huge fraud, but we're good at rationalizing minor fudging, especially when we're only cheating ourselves.
Like, oh, I meant to allocate that, but...
Exactly. Or just conveniently forgetting to look at the bank balance.
Avoid the naked truth again.
Which is why transparency and accountability is key. Just like stepping on the scale, a good profit-first group requires sharing the actual numbers, bank statements, screenshots.
The numbers don't lie.
Nope. They cut through the self-deception.
So how do you find people for this? An accountability group.
Ask entrepreneurial friends, maybe. Look online, he mentions the Fastlane forum. Even post on social media asking for a profit-first partner.
And test them.
Yeah, he suggests testing for persistence. Someone replies fast but flakes on follow-up. Probably not committed enough. You need someone equally serious.
What does a meeting look like?
Pretty simple structure. Quick check-in on feelings about finances, brief update on actions taken, then the core. The profit-first report, share the numbers, balances, allocations, discuss challenges, set specific goals for next time.
Okay, makes sense. Once you've mastered the basics, are there more advanced ways to use this? More accounts?
Definitely. As the business gets healthier, you might add specialized accounts. A very common one is the income account.
What's that for?
It's basically a holding tank. All revenue lands there first, then you allocate it out to profit, ops X, tax, owner's pay, etc. Creates even clearer separation.
What about saving for big, irregular stuff, like inventory or equipment?
Good point. That's where you might add a stocking account for saving up for those large, infrequent inventory buys.
Like the roofing example.
Yeah, saving for bulk nuts and bolts. And similarly, a major equipment account for saving towards big future purchases, computers, machinery, whatever.
And what about those large deposits you get upfront for big projects?
Yeah.
Retainers.
The DRP account stands for Don't Receive It Prematurely.
Okay.
Instead of dumping a huge retainer into your main account and being tempted to spend it before you earn it, you put it in the DRP account. Then, on your regular allocation schedule, you drip only the portion you've actually earned that period into your income account for allocation.
Prevents those cash flow illusions. Smart.
Yeah.
What about money stuck in PayPal or Stripe?
Treat it like any other income. Don't let it sit there as extra. Transfer it regularly, daily, if possible, definitely bi-weekly into your main income account so it gets allocated properly.
Any other quick tips for staying on top of it daily?
He suggests a quick financial check. Just a daily glance at income, OPSEX, maybe petty cash, keeps you really tuned in. And using bank checks instead of personal ones for business.
Why?
Creates a stronger mental separation. Feels more like the money is gone once the check is written. Less chance of accidental overdrafts.
This feels like a really solid system for business. But you mentioned earlier, it applies personally too.
Absolutely. The argument is running your personal finances isn't that different from running a business. Income, expenses, goals, emergencies.
And if you own a business, the two are tied together anyway.
Like Siamese twins, he calls them. Your personal financial health deeply affects your business, and vice versa.
And the end goal personally. Financial freedom.
Defined simply as doing what you choose to do whenever you choose to do it. And the path there, same principles. Simple, consistent habits, systematized.
He shares some raw personal stories about cutting back after his crash, selling the cars.
Yeah, the Viper, Land Rover, BMW, the club membership, even Netflix. Painful, but he realized something crucial.
What was that?
That 99.99% of people don't actually care what you own. The tiny fraction who do will just laugh if you fail anyway. But the vast majority, the people who genuinely love you, they'll support your effort and courage, not your stuff.
What about personal debt? Credit cards specifically?
Cut them up. Remove the temptation. Works with behavior, right? If it's not easy to use, you won't.
Any exception?
One emergency card, maybe, sealed in an envelope, given to a trusted friend or family member to hold. Makes it really hard to access for impulse buys.
And applying Parkinson's law personally. That's huge here too.
Massive. Just like business expenses expand, personal spending expands to fill income. So, Figure out your owner's pay.
Live within that.
Comfortably, yes.
Yeah.
But the key is resisting lifestyle creep as your income grows. Try to lock in your lifestyle for a few years.
So the gap between income and expenses widens.
And that widening gap, that's what builds serious cash towards financial freedom. It requires discipline, or better yet, a system.
The system, like the kid's envelope system he mentions.
Yeah. Income, save, give, vault for long-term goals, mad money for spending, simple, visual, and the golden rule. Allocate first before spending anything.
Teaches the core habit early. Like his barber, Lou.
Yeah, Lou used envelopes for decades.
Yeah.
Profitable, debt-free shop. It works.
He also has some strong words about giving kids cars.
Calls it selfish as hell. Pretty strong.
Why selfish?
His point is, it's often more about the parent avoiding the discomfort of saying no or wanting the kid to have it easy than about actually preparing the kid for real-world finances.
So it can actually hurt them.
By not letting them build the muscle to earn and manage their own money. Sometimes a little struggle within a safe environment is necessary for growth.
And finding joy in low-cost things, like trying for free TV show tickets.
Yeah, the thrill of the small win, the fun experience, the shared memory. He contrasts that with the fleeting high of buying expensive stuff, finding fulfillment beyond just consumption.
Okay, this system seems incredibly thorough, business and personal. Where does it usually go wrong? What are the biggest pitfalls?
The number one barrier, it's usually internal. Our own beliefs about what's possible. Believing old myths.
Like the 4-minute mile.
Exactly. Sir Roger Bannister. Everyone knew it was physically impossible. He breaks it. Suddenly, lots of others do too. The belief barrier was the real limitation. We do the same with profit or financial freedom.
And within the system itself.
Yeah.
A critical mistake to avoid.
Stealing from the tax account. Major danger zone.
Why is that so bad?
As you get more profitable, which is the goal, your taxes will go up. Paying more tax is a good sign.
Okay.
But if you rely on old tax estimates based on lower income and dip into the tax account money because it looks like extra,
You'll be short when the bill comes due.
big time. That money is not a slush fund. It's already owed.
So the action step is...
Talk to your accountant regularly. Ideally, find a profit-first professional, a PFP, do quarterly check-ins, review allocations, especially tax, based on current results. Get real.
Wow, this has been a really comprehensive look from the core problem with traditional accounting.
To that simple flip, sales, profit, expenses.
The practical steps, finding efficiencies, client management.
The power of accountability. Advanced techniques, applying it personally.
And crucially, the pitfalls like self-limiting beliefs and robbing the tax account.
Yeah, by flipping that formula, the system uses our own behavior for us, not against us. Makes profitability more automatic.
And the payoff seems huge. Less stress, peace of mind.
Real financial health for the business and you. Freedom to focus on why you started the business in the first place.
And he stresses it works for any size, any industry.
Absolutely.
It really underlines that idea, doesn't it? That small, consistent habits within the right structure can achieve things that seem impossible. Breaking records, getting healthy, or, achieving permanent profitability.
What seems out of reach often just needs a shift in structure and that persistent effort.
Makes you think, doesn't it? Where else are you fighting human nature with willpower, when maybe just changing the structure, the plate size, could make all the difference?